These are the video notes for section 7.4 of exponential algebra. So you should have your note packet open and you should write down what I do as we go through. This will be your ticket to getting the 7.4 worksheet assignment on this section. So first of all, we're going to be dealing with a few more properties with our exponents, and these two involve multiplication. Just a quick review. We've already talked about when you multiply, go ahead and write this down. Everything I write down you should. When you multiply and you have the same base, it's really, x squared is 2x's, and x to the third power means multiply x by itself 3 times, which results in x to the fifth. And we talked about in 7.3 that we had a property which stated that because this is repeated multiplication, to do it 2 times and 3 times, well, I could just hop right to here and say, well, that's really just the sum of them. So really what we do when we multiply, when we have the same base, is we add the exponents. Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about, well, what happens if I have a power. Go ahead and write it down. I'm going to say maybe some number a, and maybe I'm squaring it, and then I'm cubing it. And we call this power to a power because we've got a power to another power. And we're going to write out what it means first. So this means I multiply this by itself 3 times. So I'd have a squared times a squared times a squared 3 times. And then using our property from last week, when we multiply, we have the same base, which we do right here, all a's, we add the exponents. So I'd have a to the 2 plus 2 plus 2, which is really a to the 6th. We're going to do that one more time. So I'm going to do another one. I'm going to take a number. I'm going to call it 2, and I'm going to raise it to the third 4 times. And again, these rules for exponents make our work easier. We just have to make sure we can remember them. When I write this out, that means I'm going to repeatedly multiply 2 cubed by itself 4 times. So I'm going to have 2 cubed once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. And then each one of these is 3 2's. And we have our property that says if you have the same base, which I do, 2, 2, 2, and 2, I simply add the exponents. So I'd have 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, which gives me 2 to the 12th. So now again, let's see if we can come up with a rule for this so we can avoid writing all this out, which we don't want to do. So let's look at the link here. When I did a squared to the third power, I ended up with a to the 6th. When I did 2 cubed to the 4th power, I ended up with 2 to the 12th. So you can see the connection there between the exponents that I started with and the one that I ended with. It looks like it's just the product or what I get when I multiply them. And that is the case. The rule's going to say if you have power to a power, you multiply the exponents. And we're going to go put that on the next page. So go forward a page and let's write that out in our property box right here. When I have a power to another power, okay, it means I'm going to multiply those. And we write that as a to the mn. So that's our first one for today that we need to know. I don't like the green on there. I'm going to go to red here. So power to a power, you multiply. And again, if you try to memorize all of these, it sometimes gets a little complicated. So when you think it through, it means you're going to be multiplying this n times. So you'll have n groups of those. And grouping is another term for multiplication. So go back a page again, and we're going to do our next one. I'd like you to draw a double line right here. We're going to talk about our other property that we're going to deal with today. Below that double line, I'm going to erase what's above mine, but below your double line, we're going to talk about, well, what happens now if I have a bunch of stuff or a group of things to a power. So let's make our group of things maybe 2x. And let's keep our power nice and low, like 2 to the third. Again, we'll write it out, and then we'll see if we can come up with a rule that'll help us do it quicker. So again, my power means repeated multiplication. 3 times I need to do 2x times 2x times 2x. And remember, I told you last week that when you have these out fronters, which we call coefficients, but those numbers out front, you can go ahead because multiplication is commutative, order does not matter. Let's bring those out front and let's put our x's in the back. Now look when I'm done. I ended up with 2 being multiplied 3 times and x being multiplied 3 times. I'm going to do one more so we can see the pattern. I'll do it in blue. So the next one I'm going to do is x, y, z to the 4th. And again, what a pain to write it out, but I'm going to. It'd be x, y, z times x, y, z. I'm going to do this 4 times. Notice this is the whole point of our rules, is so that we don't have to do this. I'm going to put all my like bases together, so you'll see I have 1, 2, 3, 4 x's here. So I'm going to go x, 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 x. Again, order does not matter in multiplication. So if you're 15, you could tell me I'm 5 times 3, and if I said, nope, you're 3 times 5, it really does not matter. Both are 15. So I can, perfectly legal for me to rearrange these with multiplication. So then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 y's, and 1, 2, 3, 4 z's. What a pain that was. When I'm all done with it, you'll notice I end up with x to the 4th, 4 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, y to the 4th, 1, 2, 3, 4, if I add those up with the same base there, and z to the 1, 2, 3, 4th. And again, let's look at a link so we can come up with a rule. When I had a whole group of stuff to a power, look at what it's simplified down to. Same up here. When I had the 2 and the x both to the 3rd power, look what it's simplified to. It seems like I should just be able to bring that power in and say it's 2 to the 3rd, x to the 3rd, and it is. So perfectly legal for you to just bring that power into the parentheses as long as you bring it in to everything. So on our next page, go ahead and page forward and we'll go to our next property box. Our product to a power, and product means multiply, and I'm taking it to a power. I simply can bring it in to everything in the parentheses. So we're going to practice down here on the bottom these problems that involve, I'm going to move this out of the way, all the properties we've learned so far. And I've talked to you about how once you learn new properties, you still need to accumulate and use the other ones we've had. And I talked to you about how it's like when you're getting your driver's license and you're doing your behind the wheel. Just because you learn a new driving property doesn't mean you stop using the other rules you've learned. So kind of keep in mind, we've got quite a few going right now. Let's review them real quick. We have anything to the 0 power is 1. We have anything to a negative gets sent to the basement to be positive. We've got when you multiply and you've got the same base, you just add the exponents. And now we have the 2 new ones that you just wrote. So we've got 5 of them to work with. So this says write the simplified form. Remember, don't leave any negatives. We don't want any negatives in our answers, so all of those get to be sent. All right, so the first one up is power to a power. And our property that we wrote up above in the first yellow box says you can simply multiply those exponents. You don't need to write x to the 3rd times x to the 3rd times x to the 3rd 4 times, because you will always get the product. Okay, so that one's done. Number 2, we have a property that says when I have a chunk of stuff to a power, it can come in. So I have p squared to the 5th, and I have q to the 5th. That was this property right here from today. Well, now I've got my power to a power, and I have to multiply those. So I have p to the 2 times 5, which is 10, q to the 5th. So notice I'm accumulating my properties, and I'm using all of them as I go. One rule of thumb is that it really is easiest to work from the outside in. If you have a power outside like on this one, bring it in before. It is legal for you to deal with that negative exponent, and I'll show you. We'll do this one 2 ways. So let's do one way over here and the other way over here. Okay, First thing to do is, again, as long as you don't break any of those rules, you don't have to use them in any particular order. But I'm going to use the one that says when I have a chunk of stuff to a power, I do both things to that power. So I have m to the negative squared to the fourth, and I have n to the fourth, giving me, again, power to power, I multiply. And remember, we can't leave that negative exponent, so I'm going to clean it up. Our negatives get sent down until to be positive, and my n to the fourth gets to stay up. That's the correct answer. My other option would have been to just throw that m squared down immediately and deal with it like this, but we haven't talked really about what to do with a division problem, so I'm going to exclusively have you do it that way, and when we get to 7.5 we'll talk about another way to do that problem. So the next one up here, again, you can't multiply straight across here even though you have the same base, because our rules of order say that powers get done first. So I need to bring that power in, which will give me the y to the third, it's not in parentheses, and I would have y to the negative 2 to the negative 1. Power to power I multiply, two negatives make a positive. And then I'd have y to the negative first. Because I have the same base here, I get to use my property that says I add all the exponents. You don't need to throw that one to the basement yet. Let's clean it up first. I have 3, 4, 5, down 1 to y to the 4. This one looks complicated, but just don't break any rules, okay? Let's go ahead and deal with this first. Power to a power, you multiply the exponents. 5 times 2 is 10. I have a chunk of stuff to a power. I bring it all in. It's going to give me 4 cubed, m cubed, n to the negative 2 cubed. Power to a power. I get to multiply those for a negative 6. Okay? All of these are good, except this one needs to get sent to the basement. I also talked to you about how proper grammar, we like to put our numbers out front. So I'm going to have 4 to the third, n to the 10th, m to the third, send it to the basement to be more positive. And I'm done with that one. All right, now this one's good. I like this one. There's one like this on your quiz. I like it because we use pretty much all, well, not all the properties, but a lot of them. Here's a thing not to forget. Remember, anything, as long as it's in parentheses to the 0 power, is 1. This one, it's a chunk of stuff to the negative 6. And again, I think I'll just bring that in. I could drop the whole thing down right away, but I've got 2 to the negative 6, m to the negative 6 times 1. 1 doesn't do anything in multiplication, so I'm going to just, whoopsie, expand my window here. I'm just going to, it won't let me cross that off there. It's letting me move around. All right, so let's see. Both of those are going to go to the basement for a 2 to the 6 and an m to the 6. And remember, don't leave the upstairs unmanned. Moving on to the next page here. Next page, I am asked to find the simplified expression for this square. I'm going to try to make this a little bit neater here. All right, so remember, to get the area of a square, we do area is side times side, which is actually a side squared. It's your base times height, but for a square, both of these are the same. So really what I end up with is a side squared. Again, if this square had a side of 10, we'd say 10 times 10, or 10 squared. Its area is 100. So same thing. So now what I need to do is, I forgot my little, sorry, let me fix this up here. So I've got my side squared, and my side is 5x cubed. Well, let's use our property. A chunk of stuff squared means everything in there gets squared. So 5 gets squared, and x cubed gets squared. Well, now I've got power to a power. And I know 5 squared is 5 times 5, 25. Power to a power, I multiply. Okay, so that one's done. And our last one up here, and I don't know if I'll quite have time to finish it, but we'll give it a try. I only get 15 minutes of free recording time. So if I don't finish it, I'll finish it in class for you. Actually, we'll just do this one in class, and we'll have it be done. So again, this is your ticket to get your worksheet, which we'll do in class tomorrow. And you guys have a fabulous day.